Hello, everybody, and welcome to. And I haven't ran this by David yet, but I've been thinking about it since we started the pod months ago. It's took me
Yes,
forever. It's took me forever, but I have came up with a name for the
only took a
show.
year. That's magic. Well done.
I've came up with a name, and it took me loads of time. So I hope everybody's impressed with it. Welcome to the crossover.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Would you think, David?
I've heard worse. I've heard worse. But one of my favourite albums of all time is called The Crossing. So there you go. So yeah, not the worst thing. Certainly not the worst thing I've heard this week. But let's face it, that wouldn't have come from anyone other than our beloved football club, which is doing its very best at the moment to piss us all off. And I have to say, doing a rather good job of it.
Yes, well, you don't know how many times I've typed out on WhatsApp, right, David, is this true? And then deleted it.
To be honest, people are saying, what's happening? What's happening? I don't even think they know.
No,
Rangers, so, how I'm expected to, I'm not quite sure. But yeah, it's just been a nightmare. The whole situation has been avoidable. The fact that it looks like going into a match with nobody in the job. I got to be honest, when Russell Martin was given his jotters, it didn't even occur to me that we would be potentially going into this match with no appointment. And now it's Wednesday night. Just nightmarish. They can't do right for doing wrong at the moment. They've got so much wrong in such a short space of time. If they get the managerial appointment right, of course, then that solves a lot of problems, because obviously the key thing is the team improving on the park. But I don't think when we come to do their half-season report card come about Christmas that I don't think they're going to be in contention for an A, put it that way.
No, I mean, Alan's, is there a game on Saturday? Unfortunately, yes, there is. I should do the introductions, actually. So, hello, I'm Martin. Martin Douglas, host and owner of the Rangers Rabble, and he, I don't like to bring this up, but apparently it is true, is one of the few men in Scotland who can afford to shop at Sainsbury's and then have a KFC after it. It is the host and owner of Heart and Hand, David Edgar. David,
I shop at Tesco's. I'm not having that.
oh, but I'm just telling you what the rumours are saying.
Yeah, I shop at Tesco. I do live pretty much on junk food. I can't deny that. Actually, the other night I had a chicken Big Mac, and somebody said, "Oh, I've been tempted to go for that, but it's not my usual order." And I said, "Well, I'd had the Philly cheesesteak 4 nights in a row, and I figured I better eat something healthy, so went for that instead."
That really annoys me because I've stood next to you and I am considerably fatter than you. And I don't eat that much junk food.
I don't know what it is. I can eat anything and never ever put on weight. My dad's the same. I don't know why. And my mum and my sister hate us because they both, if they look at a cake, they get calories from it. But me and my dad can eat. So I basically live on crisp chocolate and junk food, which is why I look like this. I mean, it's not. It doesn't come, with no
sense.
cost, right? I mean, you will end up looking like me, right? I look like a finger that someone's hit with a hammer, but it saves me cooking, and it's not even so much cooking, although it is, I can't be arsed with it. It's washing up, just no. Whereas if you just get a takeaway every night, you just chuck it out once it's done and bosh. Plus, it's good for the economy. That's the way I look at it.
Well, I mean, when we bought this house, it came with a dishwasher. No, not my missus. It came with an actual dishwasher. And let me tell you something, they're not worth it. They're really not worth it. The dishwasher, that is not my missus.
I know, pet hate of mine actually is my wife will walk past the dishwasher to put dishes in the sink.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you do that? That's insane, right? You're literally walking past the dishwasher to do it, but aye.
The fact that we have spent, almost 3 minutes talking about dishwashers and junk food, I think perfectly illustrates where we are right now with Rangers. David, so yeah, you mentioned it briefly at the start there. So obviously Russell Martin loses his job after the Falkirk game. We're all thinking, and I wrote a wee piece on it saying, a draw with Falkirk, we lose our manager, and it left the Rangers fans cautiously optimistic about the future. Well, any of that optimism that we had on the Monday after the Falkirk game has gone. It has disappeared. It has evaporated, as in a few days' time we face Dundee United at home. We have apparently spent all week chasing Steven Gerrard for him to then turn down the job. And now it seems as though there's a sort of malaise by the board, by the owners, to bring in a new manager. Tell me something, David. How many interviews is that Muscat's on now? Is that 5 or 6? Close to something?
This is the thing when you boast about your process, which they did in the summer when they brought in Russell Martin, that it will then be ridiculed when things go badly, which of course they very much did under Russell Martin. They haven't given the impression. Now, hold on. Let me just right at the start caveat that by saying that we don't know what's going on in the background, right? We don't know what the processes are or how thorough the search is or any of that stuff, who they've talked to, all that stuff, right? But we can only go on what we see. We can only go on what we hear and what the rumours are, right? And all we can say at this point is, as you say, Rangers went for a target, didn't get him, were not back by him, an out-of-work target, incidentally. And then appear to have been scrambling about this week. Had a guy there, Danny Rohl, that they seemed keen on if Gerrard backed out, but then for whatever reason have changed their mind on that, it would appear, again. Then suddenly Kevin Muscat has come into the equation. There are complications with Kevin Muscat because of the Chinese season, and he wants to see that out and win a title there. So the whole thing feels like a mess. And the fact remains that Rangers had a manager that a blind man could see was going to be sacked. If it hadn't been then, it wouldn't have been long after. They told, the Fab that they always had succession planning in place because you need to in football, which is true. A manager can be, taken by another club or whatever. So you always need to have a list available. The impression they've given, and in football, perception matters because perception is what supporters believe. Whether it's true or not is irrelevant. It's what they believe. The impression is that they don't know what type of manager they want because there is a hell of a difference between Steven Gerrard, Danny Rohl, and Kevin Muscat in the type of manager they are, the experience level they have, the football that they play. So they appear to be scrambling around. And I'm a great believer in Occam's razor, right? You can look for hidden things, mysterious things, but maybe the reason they look like they're scrambling around is that they're scrambling around. That, to me, would appear to be the most logical conclusion to draw.
The Muscat thing confuses me slightly. I know that we've obviously been linked with Muscat several times before, but I can't understand how the position that we're in right now, right, 8th in the table, was it 11 points behind Hearts, 9 points behind Celtic? We haven't started very well. We've took a few hammerings. We need to get the confidence back into these players. We need to get these players playing in a system, a formation, a way of playing that works. And the loudest rumours that we have is a manager who, by all accounts, won't be available until the 22nd of November with a caretaker coming in, which was rumoured to be Neil McCann to take charge until our manager comes in. Maybe I'm just old-fashioned, David, but I don't like that.
No, I don't like it either. It doesn't sit right with me. I can understand his desire to start the season in China. And I saw there was some back and forth on Twitter with some people saying, no, it's absolutely fair enough. It's the right thing to do. If it was us, we would want our manager to stay. But my answer to that is, if it was us, would you want the manager to stay? I said, well, yeah, probably. But if I was the club he was going to, I'd want him to come. Without wishing to be nasty, I don't care about Shanghai Port. I do not care if they win the title or if they don't. It is of no interest to me. I care if Rangers beat Dundee United on Saturday. So yeah, that's a concern for me. Then, of course, because we are in this period of uncertainty, and uncertainty appears to be the thing that has been, that we're drawing in on at the moment, that pervades Rangers, is you think, well, if he's the right guy, though, do you maybe wait 6 weeks? And it might be less than that. I understand that. They could have the title wrapped up before then. But do you maybe wait a few weeks to get the guy who might be the right guy for the next 2 to 3 years?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the frustration. But what you might well have is a situation where we are going into December with a new manager in place who will be the third manager of the season.
Yep.
You cannot, under any circumstance, claim, if you're the owners, that you have done a good job in that period. You can't. You just can't. It's not plausible. It's not believable to be sitting where we are in the situation that we may have to go maximum, and it might be less, and I do want to stress that, but maximum 7 matches, huge matches, 2 massive European matches, an Old Firm semi-final.
Mm-hmm.
With a temporary manager in place, is an absolute and total failure of planning by the board, failure of decision making by the board and Thelwell and Stewart and the people who are involved in this process. And there's no way I think anyone can argue that, and maybe somebody watching will, but you've appointed the wrong man. You took too long to recognise it. He only lasted 123 days. He should have been gone after 60. You then have failed to get the guy that you apparently wanted. And now you're scrambling about, and you are in a position where you're trying to get someone in who you won't be able to get for a few weeks minimum. It's an intolerable situation. It's absolutely dreadful. Now, if that's the route they choose to go down and they get Kevin Muscat, we have to hope against hope that whoever it is that takes temporary charge, and as you say, I think it'll be Neil McCann, because McCann would join his coaching staff. He wouldn't be in as an interim McCann. He would be there when Muscat came in as well. So
as OS is asking, would you be happy with McCann for a month before?
I wouldn't be happy with it, no. And that's no slight on Neil McCann. These are massive games. I want a manager in for them. But I do understand the argument of, yeah, but if he's the right guy, and look, if we're turning around at the end of the season, Kevin Muscat and Neil McCann are in charge and they have done really, really well, then you say, yes, it was worth it. But it's another gamble by a board that's already taken too many and lost. And you also have the thing with Danny Rohl. I mean, at some point, surely he's going to turn around and say, do you know what? Screw this, because, how long are we going to keep him waiting for? The process has been, I think, really poor, really poor. They should have had somebody lined up just about ready to go before Martin went, in my opinion. They should have had somebody just about ready to go. And to get to here, I would say it's laughable if it wasn't something we cared about so much.
I'm not really sure who gets more of the blame for that. Would that be Kavanagh and Marath, or would that be Thelwell and Stewart for the forward planning? Because technically that's Kevin Thelwell's job. Yeah,
it is. And again, it's decision makers, though, the people who could sign this off, and that's a concern of mine. Who's got the final say here in this? Because you need somebody that has the ability to say, no, this is what we're doing. Make a decision and do it. At the moment, we hear this guy likes this person and this other guy's been arguing for that. And it might be true and it might not, we don't know. But it does appear the whole thing seems rudderless to me. We may well end up with him. I like Kevin Muscat, by the way. I like Neil McCann. I think that would be a good Joe for Rangers. I've got to say that. When this first happened, I was like, right, I would want Gerrard. He was my number one pick. But if we didn't get him, then Muscat, McInnes, etc., they would be fine. I'd be happy with those. And so I still am. But why is this process dragging on? Given the circumstances of it, it wasn't a shock. It wasn't like a team swooped in and took a successful manager. It wasn't like that. Here was a failing manager that everybody and their dog knew was going to get fired. They should have had irons in the fire. They should have been ready to go. Gerrard should have been all but tied up or all but ruled out by that stage. They should have known. And I just think it's been a disaster. It's been a disaster in terms of their credibility. What they have to hope now is that the hire, whoever comes in, does so well that they get credit for bringing them in. But at the moment, you can understand why, as Rangers fans, we don't have a lot of faith in the decision-making powers of the people that are in charge.
Now, I don't like to toot my own horn, right? I've because every time I do, my wife, my partner, brings me right back down. And I've never been much of a trendsetter either. Or as my daughter would call it, going viral. Normally when the rabble goes viral, it's for all the wrong reasons. But months and months ago, I think it was just after the Dundee game, actually, I mentioned that, because I said that was when I had made up my mind that Russell Martin wasn't going to work. Everybody told me it was too early, and I went, that's fine, we've all got our own opinions, but I went, no, it's not going to work. And I started mentioning Stephen Robinson, David. And I started mentioning him because he has impressed me with his body of work in Scotland, with some of the clubs that he's worked at and what he's doing with St Mirren right now. And it seems to have been picked up by a few people. I even heard people on TalkSport talking about Stephen Robinson. So I'm claiming that, right, as that was me that started it all. Right. And I know you're saying that I'm keeping that, I'm taking that. And I know that you're saying that with Kevin Muscat, my number one choice for better or worse is Stephen Robinson. I think Stephen Robinson would come into Rangers, and I think if you look at what he's done at Motherwell, if you look at what he's currently doing at St Mirren, I think he would be a great appointment for Rangers. And I think it's been that long since we've had a look inwards at our own league, looked at the managers within our own leagues and took a chance on one of them. We have went to England, we have went to Belgium, we have went to Holland, we have went to Portugal. I think Pedro Caixinha's from into Portugal. We have went to all these countries and we have brought managers in and they have largely not worked. When do we start looking inwards?
Yeah, I mean, it's a perfectly legitimate argument, and if it was Robinson or McInnes, I would certainly be more than willing to give either of those guys a chance if they came in. They were on my not really. He's been accused of polishing his own horn many a time.
Been in a relationship for 13 years.
But no, I wouldn't have any objection to that. They would be sensible, not exciting. They don't get the blood pumping. I accept that, but sensible appointments for a club that has made too many, as you say, swings for the fences. And we've manufactured a situation here that you get someone like Danny Rohl, who I think is an excellent coach, by the way. Is he right for us right now, given his age, given the fact that fans are a bit sick of that approach? Probably not, but you just know, don't you, that he's going to go somewhere and do absolutely brilliant. And in about 2 years, we'll be sitting going, God, we should have hired him, because that's just the way things seem to go for us as fans, because we've been kind of beaten down into always expecting that sort of thing to go wrong. I do like Kevin Muscat. I think he has both the coaching ability, because he has a coach to succeed, but also married with the strong personality and character. But here's another thing I like about him, and Robinson McInnes would fit in that as well, by the way. These are good shouts because of something that I maybe hadn't considered. You're getting people who are not coming off a bad spell that they need to rebuild their reputation. And that's been primarily, if you look at who we've brought in the past, not always, Beale had a good reputation and was doing okay at the time at QPR. Hard to judge, but he did have a good rep. But if you look at some of the kind of previous guys that we've brought in, Clement off a sacking, Martin, he was off of a sacking, right? When you bring in guys like that are rebuilding their reputation, it's surely more attractive to bring somebody in who's been winning and who's been succeeding in the task that's been given. So those guys would arrive with that. A big issue for any Rangers manager coming in at the moment is credibility in the eyes of the support. Which is
something we need to talk about, by the way.
Because there needs to be buy-in from fans. I think that happens with Muscat. I think there is the buy-in from the supporters. Look, if Kevin Muscat could arrive here on Monday with the travelling, I think there would be no discussion really needed. It would be, yes, go and do that. It's just this. But even at that, if he's the guy you want, make the decision, get it done, start the process. Whereas right now, there's nothing coming out. There's no, concrete improvement. And as it stands, on Wednesday night, as we get ready to take on Dundee United on Saturday, we'll have an academy coach in the dugout.
Yes, we absolutely will. You mentioned Danny Rohl. Now, I must admit, when his name first got mentioned, a bit like anybody who hasn't ever played or managed in Scotland, I was a bit like, don't really know anything about him. Looked into him a wee bit, done a wee bit of digging, and a lot of Rangers fans were angry. David, if you and I always preface this, going by social media, right? Going by the people who are in my comments, no doubt your comments as well, because it's not like the olden days where you went down the pub and everybody was talking about the football, right? Those days are gone. So I'm purely judging this by the social media and the YouTube world reaction. I mean, there was people on socials, David, with a picture of Danny Rohl with a circle with a line through it, and it was just a rumour. The more you looked into him, the more you realised that he was loved at Sheffield Wednesday.
There's a difference from Russell Martin straight away.
He's a massive difference, and he's a massive different coach from Russell Martin as well, because he has the ability to adapt, right? However, if we just look at the support for a second, which includes me, which includes you, which includes 95% of the people watching, are we going a wee bit too gung-ho now? Are we being a wee bit too reactionary? Are we scaring off potential managers as a support?
Maybe, but we need to deal in reality. And we can argue about whether or not we should be like this. And we can argue about, or debate rather, is it a negative thing? But the situation doesn't change, right? That reaction that you saw to Danny Rohl exists because fans are fed up with this kind of thing, and they don't have faith in this model of, a young head coach under that system that Rangers want to do, because we have no track record of success with it. It would be different if somebody came in and was a success. I tend to think that Danny Rohl, if we'd hired him in the summer, when there was maybe, a wee bit more scope for buy-in, I don't think we'd be in the position we're in right now. I think he would have done much better than Russell Martin had. And I do think he's a very good coach, very talented coach. I think he's going to do things in the game. But can someone come in at the moment at Rangers with the atmosphere the way it is, with the fans' mood, with the fans not wanting him particularly, and succeed? I think that's very, very difficult. And that's my concern with Danny Rohl. So it could be a case of just not right for this club at this time. And again, if we were coming off a successful period and a manager had just been poached by, someone in the English Premiership, say, Danny Rohl would be ideal, I think. But because of the situation we're in, that's not the case. So you need someone that's going to get in buy-in from a large amount of supporters, right? That's important as well. You're not going to get universal. But I think that he would struggle on that front. I think he could probably do a good job for us, in all honesty. I think that the guy's talented enough to do that. But at Rangers, there does need to be an understanding that if they want to go this model that they do, the status of a Rangers manager in Scotland, and to be fair, that lot's manager as well, is like no other. I mean, the Rangers manager is the most important job in the country. It's the one that most people are paying attention to, and will give you a report card on it every day, And the idea that you can bring someone in and they just are a nice head coach the way they are at clubs in England, and they come in and they just do their media on a Saturday and then the rest of the time they coach the team. It isn't true. Whether you want to be or not, and whether or not the club would like you to be or not, you become a figurehead and you get judged on your leadership skills. You're seen as the leader of the support. So the club either need to help the person that they bring in with that, or get someone who can do it. And that's something that they failed resolutely at with Russell Martin, who was put out there, was bad at it, couldn't communicate with us as supporters, didn't have the necessary communication skills, because good communication skills aren't just about being a good talker, it's about identifying your audience and speaking to them in a way that they respond to, and he never did that. He didn't even attempt to do that. And therefore, you have to take that into account with the next guy. But if you hire someone that the fans don't want, the majority of fans don't want, first defeat, you know what it's like. And then suddenly it's a toxic environment and almost impossible to succeed in. So you need to get somebody that will give you the buy-in. That's why Gerrard might not have been the right guy, long term. Nobody can say if that was the case. But there's no doubt he would have given us a real short-term shot in the arm and really energized the support. And I think the nearest to that, the candidates who are nearest to that are Muscat and McInnes in terms of getting that level of buy-in. Don't think they bring the same excitement as Gerrard for various reasons, but I think they get that, good, he's here, let's give him a real chance, let's get behind him. If you hire a manager that the fans are like, who's this guy? I don't want this guy. Unless he starts like a train, then you get what you get with Russell Martin.
That pressure that you talk about, does that intensify on Muscat if he gets the job and isn't here until November and it's a caretaker in charge until then, if it is Neil McCann or whatever? Does that pressure intensify in Muscat then if he comes in and doesn't start, as you say, like a train?
I suppose, there's a lot of factors. It's a tough one. One, with no frame of reference, because I don't recall anything like this.
No.
So I don't have a frame of reference of Rangers sitting waiting for a manager. I suppose you could say Souness. The last couple of games 86 Walter took, he was very fortunate as soon as look at the man he had to do that. We didn't know it at the time, but one of the greatest figures in the entire club's history. But that was 2 games. This is 7, which is a long time. If they go well, then there's less pressure. If they go really badly, then what's the mood going to be like when he arrives? Yes, I agree. But it's impossible to say because this is new territory for us if he comes in. If we beat Celtic in the League Cup semi and we picked up in the league, he comes in, it's brilliant. What a great environment to walk into. More positive than it is right now. If we do badly in these games, if we lose in Europe and we're basically out of Europe and we get beaten in the semi-final, then the place is going to be on the floor and he's going to need to try and pick everybody's jaws up off that. So I think it adds an element of unknown into it's an unknown variable in the equation, yeah, definitely. But it's impossible to say because there's just no frame of reference to judge it by.
Or Neil McCann wins every game. He comes in and loses his first. That would be...
And everybody's like, hold on a minute here. Yeah, that's the kind of thing. What I will say is, by the way, if we do have to go down this route, then having somebody like Neil McCann there is about as good as you could get. I would argue that because he's a clever guy. He's got recent experience of being here as well, which is vital.
Some of the players.
He knows what he's going into. So if you are doing this, and nobody would say it's ideal, but if you are doing this, you could pick a hell of a lot worse than Neil McCann. So that I'm perfectly good with. But it's just a weird situation. But again, this is the position the board have manufactured themselves into.
Yeah, now I know that, and you're a self-confessed, or where at least was, or whatever the proper England is, a self-confessed Gerrard fanboy. You wanted Gerrard back in the building. It would appear we had a week's negotiation with Steven Gerrard before we were told the timing wasn't correct, right? And if you believe that, then you'll believe that we actually walked on the moon. I was just waiting for all the comments. But man, can you ask? And I know you don't like being called Davy, right? But he's put Davy.
No, I don't mind Davy. With an IE usually, if it's spelling. I was going to say, it's Dave. I don't like Davy or David is totally fine.
Now, what's wrong with Dave?
It just doesn't seem like me.
Fools and horses.
It seems more of a kind of English term, I think, I dive.
I suppose.
Davy's fine. I'm Scottish. That's fine. And David, of course, is my name, so no problems there. But Dave, I just don't think so. You don't get many Scottish people called Dave. We've got one Dave at Heart and Hand, and I always say to him, "That's weird."
See, I've got 3 Allens in the Rabble.
That's a lot of Allens.
A lot of Allens, isn't it?
That's a gallon of Allen.
So, he's here all week, folks. He's here all week.
That's maybe. I've only got one Allen, and now we know why, because you're hoarding all the podcasting Allens. Yes, what have we got the most of? We've got me, Davy Graham, and Dave. So that's 3 Davids. Apart from that, actually, I think we've got a decent spread of names.
You've got a couple of Martins, do you know? Or is it just one?
No, just one Martin. And he spells it different to you.
He spells it the wrong way.
He says his is the right way and yours is the...
his is a surname. His is a surname.
He says yours is the Celtic way.
Well, I'll tell you what. If he wasn't quite a scary-looking guy, I'd go and speak to him right now. But no. No. Remember the goalkeeper, Nigel Martin?
Yeah.
How did he spell his name?
He spelled his second name with a Y, yes.
Thank you very much. That's all I need to say. I've got 2 Marks and 3 Allens. So there we go.
Well, I suppose it's easy to pin blame on somebody if you're one of them then. Oh, no, it was the other Allen.
Yes, it was the other Allen. So why do you think Gerrard didn't take the job? Was it Thelwell or something else? And this goes into a kind of a deeper conversation, I think, David, because I'll add that to Vic's super chat. Thank you very much, Vix. She wants it called Heart on the Rabble. I prefer the crossover, but we'll discuss it. Thelwell P45 yet. People aren't happy, David.
No wonder.
Really
no wonder. I mean, this is the thing that sometimes I think, am I being fair? And then I look at it and I go, right, okay, well, here's the thing. I'll ask you, what has improved since Patrick Stewart has been at Rangers? Right. What has improved since Kevin Thelwell has been at Rangers?
Nepotism,
man. That's the thing. Now, they might be doing a shitload of work behind the scenes on stuff that needs doing, but we as supporters don't see, right? Can't deny that because we don't see it. They might be brilliant at that, and long term we'll get the benefits of that. But to quote Russell Martin, you only see the outcomes. And what we have at the moment is a team performing terribly, manager sacked, people being, that's Sal Bibbo. It's improved Jack Butland. But so far, it's very difficult to say, yes, you've done this and that's great, right? The playing squad hasn't impressed so far. The results are poor. We are worse than we were last season. I would argue we've regressed. Patrick Stewart, again, I can't think of anything that I would say, off the field has improved dramatically. They have got a manager decision terribly, terribly wrong. And of course they're going to, how can we not? What evidence have we got to sit here and say they're doing a great job? Now, did Gerrard not come because of the structure? There's a bit of me that thinks it might have been that. There's a bit of me that thinks it might have been the tax. There's a bit of me that thinks that maybe he just thought, this isn't for me at the moment. Of course, we've heard in the past about family. I don't know. And until he tells us.
But surely most of those things, like, for example, the tax thing, the family thing, you would have known about that before.
Yeah, you would have known, but it doesn't mean you made your decision. You go for a job interview. I mean, I've gone for a job interview, had the phone call saying you've got it and then turned it down because when I've thought about it, it's not right for me. So that happens. People are people, they make decisions. But should it have been playing it that publicly if they weren't 100% sure? Could they not have nailed all this stuff down before he flew into London and everybody knew about it? That's my thing on that. And look, see, at the end of the day, by the way, see if this is the structure that they are committed to, then fine, go with it. But then, this is what I mean. It's like, if you're committed to this structure, what's Danny Rohl then, isn't it?
It's got to be.
So why aren't you hiring him?
There is a few people.
That doesn't mean I
Sorry.
agree with hiring Danny Rohl, mate. I'm just saying that if this is the structure they're committed to, but so far, Stewart and Thelwell have been unimpressive.
Yeah.
Sorry. The appointment of his son, I still find utterly staggering. I'm staggered that he would think to do it and think that it wouldn't cause issues. And I'm staggered that people at Rangers nodded it through. So far, they've not done well. This is the first person, this is the first challenge, really, for Kavanagh and Marathi, and they're not impressing either. We can only go on what we see. And what we see so far is a litany of poor decisions that have come back and hurt us.
Yeah. I mean, spinning bird flip. I don't know if he's actually talking about the microphones here, but look at the size of the mic on Dave. He's put Dave. Puts you to shame, Martin. I think you'll find my microphone's bigger.
Yeah, I think we need to do the Father Ted thing. It's like, this is big, but these are far away. It's just that. I think we need to do that. Yeah, I don't think there's a big difference. It's this holder makes it look big, but that's just so I can do that.
You've got a bigger holder. Mine's is just generally bigger.
Yeah, yours is just there. But I like to move mine about because sometimes if somebody asks me to do a video thing, and I don't like doing video.
Yes.
And if they've annoyed me, I can do this.
Yeah.
And it really annoys them. So,
which is what you done the very first show we ever done.
Yeah,
it was. Did
that.
Right
here. That was my protest. I also remember that I didn't have the light on as well in protest at having to do a video thing.
Surely you would want to show your face without the light on.
No, there's a reason I don't do video.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? This is the thing. I remember a Celtic fan came on some stream I was doing. And he's like, Baldy. And I was like, I know. I don't take that as an insult. That's how I look, right? It'd be wonderful if I looked like Brad Pitt, but I don't. But it's all joking aside. Yeah, I just look. I would love to be sitting here going, "Oh, the new owners have been brilliant, haven't they? Come in and it's a great manager and great players, and we're flying." Can only go on. Russell Martin inadvertently nailed it when he said, "You only see the outcomes." He was right, not in the way he thought he was. But he was right. We only see the outcomes, and so far the outcomes are poor.
Just before we go on to the next point, there was always going to be a bad joke. So you're Brad Pitt, that don't impress me much.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's that. She was quite difficult when you think about it, So you're a rocket scientist, and that didn't impress her either.
That didn't impress her.
What are you after, Shania? Tell us.
Please tell me. I don't care what age you are, Shania. Tell me what impresses you, and I will do it.
But tell it. Well, what chance have you got if a Brad Pitt rocket scientist wasn't he doing it? I don't.
Listen, I think you'll find that I'm a very handsome man. My mum's told me for years.
That's nice of her.
Yeah, she's also a compulsive liar. Right, so heading into Saturday, David, at Dundee United with Stevie Smith. Stevie Smith in charge.
Poor bastard.
I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit worried.
Talk about being handed a parcel that's ticking.
Well, see, this is the thing. I was actually speaking to William Urban about this, who obviously follows the academy, does the RFC youth updates on Twitter and stuff. And, the B team, the under 19s, the under 17s, etc. Their training is all done with whatever the first team's doing. They set up the way whatever the first team sets up. So we've got absolutely no idea what this Rangers team's going to look like on Saturday. Because even if it is to be, see if it was to be Kevin Muscat, he isn't now. He isn't in the dugout for Saturday. No chance he's in the dugout for Saturday. So it's, unless we announce somebody just before we finish the night and it's somebody who's not in a job and can come in right now, it's going to be Stephen Smith. So we've got no idea what this Rangers team's, what it's going to look like, how it's going to set up. We don't know anything.
No, we don't. And, we're playing Dundee United, who are a top six side. They're a decent side. They got a draw at Ibrox last season, if you recall. It's not going to be easy.
No.
And we're going to go into, it appears, as you say, with no clarity on the situation. At this point, we can only go on what we know tonight, and that's it. Stevie Smith will just have to go and do his best, and I personally will not be critical of him.
No, you can't.
I don't think it's fair. He's being asked to do something by his employer, and he's going to do his best. But it's not a good situation. And I would understand had we been playing games and sacked the manager, Monday, that they might not have somebody in for Saturday. But when you had a whole international break and you should have known ahead of time, I think it's shocking.
Mm-hmm.
But yet, not shocking's the wrong word, because equally there's a bit of me that goes, but it seems to be very on brand.
It does. And I suppose maybe the fact that we have no idea how the team's going to line up, if Stephen Smith's going to go with the same tactics that he's been going with the under-19s the whole season, or if he's going to completely change it up, then Dundee United don't really know what Rangers team's going to show up, I suppose.
No,
I'm trying to find a positive somewhere.
Yeah, and it's going to be, and that's the other thing. While you don't have clarity in these situations, you get this weird kind of interregnum between one managerial reign and the next, where it feels, it's a surreal feeling, right? Because there's not much you can take out of it, because it's not real. It's that weird. It's like that bit between Christmas and New Year, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you lose across the days. So I just find it that the players can't knuckle down thinking, right, this is a new manager, this is how he wants. Everything is up in the air, and I don't think people do their best work when everything is up in the air. If you've ever worked in a business that say there's been, like threat of redundancies or whatever, then you'll know yourself that's the kind of thing that affects you. So yeah, it's far from ideal.
No, it really, really is. David, mate, that will do us for this week, I think. Hopefully by the next time we speak on this, we've got a manager.
I don't know, it's only a fortnight.
That would be handy. By the way, just on that, it has to be done next week, surely. There's no excuse for it not to be done next week.
It should have been done by now.
It should have been. It should have been, but
so
it isn't.
I don't want to sit here and say, yeah, I mean, that cannot go on into next. It can't, right? I mean, it really, really can't. Jesus Christ, if it does, they'll need to be doing interviews again, because the one's the first time round will be out of date. So no, we need this brought to a conclusion, and they need to get it right, because their credibility, I think, is where the Rangers support is on the floor.
Yeah. And if Stevie Smith wins 4 or 5 games, gets us to the final, he might get the job. You never know.
Damn right, yeah. He's sitting there. But like I say, I regardless what happens on Saturday, it will only be Stevie Smith that gets criticism.
No.
If he wins, I'll give him praise, because it's a difficult job. But if he loses, I'll certainly not be slaughtering him. No way, because this is a tough situation that he hasn't asked for, but he's stepping in and doing his best.
This is where I think the likes of Butland and especially Tav need to step up to the plate big time. Especially Tav being the captain for as long as he has, been at the club for as long as he has.
You do. You need that. But uncertainty in any walk of life is never a good thing. And right now, uncertainty abounds.
Yeah, it really does. David, thank you very much.
A pleasure as always, my man.
Thank you to everybody tuning in. Make sure that you check out the Rabble. Make sure you check out Heart and Hand, available on Patreon and YouTube. And we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, David, but I'll give you a chance to plug it now. Normally, all the Heart and Hand members' content was on Patreon, but due to a lot of people asking, it is now available on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, I'm terrible for, if I don't use something, then I just assume nobody does, right? It just doesn't enter my thinking. So I don't watch podcasts and stuff on YouTube. But except no, I wouldn't sit and watch.
I wouldn't watch me either.
I wouldn't even. I can talk to you anytime. I just fucking use the phone. I'm not fucking. No, I'm not doing that. I'm insulted, frankly. If I talk to you, I'll just Martin. But yeah, we've started putting it there. It's just the same as on, but it means that if you use YouTube for your stuff, you don't need to jump between. So it's there. Go and have a look at it. Thank you.
There you go. Thank you for all the comments tonight, all the super chats, all the new members as well, I should say, that have joined the Rabble tonight as well. And a big hello, by the way, to everybody on Heart and Hand. I hope you're all well. So until a fortnight's time, take care of yourselves, and me and David will be back. I normally say soon, but it's a fortnight, so it's not quite soon.